Hello. Thank you for joining us for another ARV Learn by Doing. We always begin with a related and important topic, and today we're going to talk about trust. We'll probably go less than a half an hour on trust, but then we'll talk about the EGAR stats, and all of that will take perhaps a half an hour. And then from 12:30, I suspect, to 1:30, we'll do an EGAR prediction. Now I hate these things with so many words, but the pictures tell the tale here. The learning, trust, and love. Um, Psychologist Erik Erikson saw trust as a core development need established in infancy. Without it, our capacity to form secure, loving attachments can't be compromised. And in adult relationships, therapists often say every repair begins with rebuilding trust. Foundational trust, love without trust is like a house built on sand, whether it's romantic, platonic, or familial trust. Trust is what makes vulnerability, the real you, feel safe. Emotional safety, love thrives where there's emotional safety. Trust makes it possible to open up, show flaws, and still feel accepted. So I sometimes feel obligated to show words that others have put out there. But this picture shows how important it is when a baby is young to bond and build trust with the mother. There's certain cases where studies on this, where babies never had this, they just had caretakers, um, and the kids turn out to be a mess. And that goes up to, older kids as well. Those first few years are very important. Um, Probably 7 to 10, something like that. And after that, the kids maybe got enough to go without it, but hey, it's always good to have love and trust. Now, how about in business? Trust is the invisible currency of business. It fuels collaboration, accelerates decision making, and builds resilience in the face of uncertainty. Without it, even the most promising ventures can unravel. Trusted teams communicate more openly, make faster decisions, and recover from setbacks more gracefully. Whether with clients, partners, or employees, trust fosters loyalty and long-term engagement. So I think that's so true. Um, in business, as we do with countries, yes, there's a little bit of trust and verify. Um, as you get to know your business associates more and more, and you trust them more and more, because of their action, then you can actually verify them less and less and become quite comfortable with them. And this goes for the people involved in business, and you need to consider something like the bank you work with as a business, which it certainly is. And you have a certain level of trust, but there's some banks out there that maybe don't deserve it. We've seen some banks go bankrupt. So you choose your bank carefully. Now, this is probably the most important slide here. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Love yourself. Um, and that doesn't mean that just with all the other elements we just discussed in trust, you're going to be let down. You're going to be let down in some of the areas where you did trust yourself. Hey, get up and go on. And I'm sure you've learned something. We learn more from our failures, as the statement goes, and that's true. But build up more and more trust in yourself. I have a feeling ETs have the same issue. If you're a sentient being, that's probably true of animals as well. You know, they're out there learning when you're first born, and you learn to survive, and you learn more and more, and pretty soon you begin to trust yourself more and more. Now, there are other levels of this. How about trusting AI? Trust it, don't trust it. And these things are not one way. You can have both of those at the same time. You can trust AI, but don't trust it. Verify. Um, Watch. There are people who are working on that, and you can just watch what's going on with that. But AI is going to be around more and more and more. Real big in financial markets now. Do you want to go with one of the firms out there that will take care of doing all of your financing with AI? Do you want to do that? I'm certainly not going to recommend whether you do it or not, but um, and AI is just big, and there's nothing we can really do to stop the explosion. We're trying to keep it in check, but it's a reality. Now, what about short and long-term psychology and trust? For the long term, with EGAR, and we're going to be teaching you, though all of you may very well know it, um, or know of it certainly, but you want to get to a point where you trust that you will be successful in the long term. And you get to define success. You get to define trust. You get to look at the data. There's an impossible dream out. Now, this affects me um, more than anybody else. You are obviously a part of it, but this dream affects me, and I'm going to talk about the trust level with that shortly. Um, so, so let's do a little background on this, and then guys will do a session. So here are two links. This had all the details. Here was a link which was simpler. You should take these links down. Perhaps I should put them in the chat box because they define there's certain things um, where I give, this is a completely open system. All the data I get, you get. And so there's some tables and things like that that you'll get um, that may be a little complex. Um, but in the simple approach, you can ignore all that. But the key element in all of this is removing displacement, which is doing a great job on the wrong target. I'll have more to say about that shortly. But let me see if I can put, I don't want to do that. See if I did copy it. Did not. Okay, sorry about that. Just copy paste and problems. Okay, so there it is. Let's see if I just okay. So did that go out to all of you? Do you get that? My thing doesn't say, oh yeah, message to everyone. And that. Okay, so if you want more details than I'm going to give you, but I'm going to give you a lot, um, you would use those two references. Now here is the key. I assume you got those references. Is that true? Received. Thank you, Joe. Um, now here's the key. And Ed May invented this approach, and it uses 24 gestalts and AOLs, and many of them are in the category of naming things, which in many CRV approaches, for example, they say don't do that. You get it in higher levels. But here, he wants a name, an AOL, because he's got 24 possible, what's called a fuzzy set. And when I do my analysis, I use your transcript and match it with this fuzzy set. So I move these things over. And you're not seeing the 24 names. I don't want to front load you, but I'm just telling you, you need to do more than just say colors and things like that. You need to get into gestalts. Now, I'm going to give you an example which has some of the gestalts in it. And but there are more. There are 24 of them. So this is an example. This is gives mountains, for example, but multiple mountains, snow, cliffs, hills, um, natural biological vegetation, which you can see there. Um, Now, okay, water. Notice here in the transcript is water. Water would not work because there are lots of different kinds of water. Lake worked. Land-water interface worked. So this was a very good match. Um, but there are other kinds of water. That's the example where you need the gestalt, um, and hopefully you'll put it. And here's texture, rough. You got natural again, biological vegetation, and a repeat motif. Okay. And in here, which is really good, repeated a lot of the gestalts, the bushes and the grasses and stuff like that. So I gave you maybe more than I should have, but I did. In some ways, I front loaded you because I've given you some of the 24 elements that are here. Now, when you do your remote viewing session, you should put all of that aside. You should simply do a session, um, knowing though you've got to give me some gestalts, some AOLs, uh, so I can do matchings. So is that clear? Is there questions about that? Okay.
Marty, it's Joe. I just had a
Oh,
brief question about that.
go ahead.
So we're not supposed to know the actual 24 gestalts because you think it would potentially contaminate our remote viewing and or make it that we're trying to make it match one of these 24 gestalts that we have, or I'm trying to figure out what the best way to communicate what I believe I'm experiencing is through the process you have set up.
Ed May said to me, don't give them ever the sheet with all of these gestalts on them.
Okay.
Okay. However, I'm giving you some of them.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, there often is more than one, but sometimes they're just two or three. Sometimes
Okay.
there are more. Um, Forget all of that, except for the fact that you need gestalts and just do your ARV session. That's what
Okay.
but I've given you enough information that you know how deep you have to go.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Any other questions, comments? Okay, now as I said, you are getting all the information that comes out from Ed May's approach. Um, and here is, notice there are multiple users, right? So you'll get to see all the people that are playing. I've hidden here because, in fact, all you really need to know is the over for target A. This is binary ARV, and the simple approach You probably, though you don't even need that, but you probably will want to look at the, it's called figure of merit, FOM. And he defined these green ones had to be over 0.45. I have put in over zero point 0.3, but on one side, you have to have two of those to be a prediction on that side. So here there actually were two, but since it was also with the green, it wasn't a prediction. So I have some rules which you don't have to worry about. But if you get over zero point 0.3, you should feel pretty good. Really, 0.45 is what got Ed May 80% with his first class master viewers. Remember that. And even with them, they were on passes 80% of the time. That was the reason I put in the yellow so that, we actually did this once before many years ago and stopped because nobody would do it. They got too many passes. So I'm doing it now with the yellows in here. And if there were no yellows and greens over here, I would go with under. But here you can see um, the people who went with over, and they had the yellows, they had the green, um, and that may be all you ever want to look at. When I do this after I evaluate your transcript and I send this to you, um, and you want to know how you predicted generally. So um, uh, this is the figure of merit. This is the game. You will always know what game. Some people wager, some people don't. Your choice. Always improve your consciousness either way. Um, and then the group prediction, which goes on the right here. I just wanted this to be big enough for you to see it. Um, is shared with all who submitted a transcript. Now, this this is the same chart. This has a lot of other things on it, something called target accuracy, target reliability. And I just don't want to go through that. Um, it's explained in detail in those other references. Um, but basically, it's reliability is how much of your transcript matches the target. And remember, there are two targets. And the accuracy is how much of everything you said is in the target. And it takes a while to absorb that. Those differences turn out to be pretty subtle. And I get mixed up sometimes as well. But all the data is there, and everything that the other people on that prediction did is there. So you're welcome to track them. I track them. I might make decisions on how well they're doing. I haven't really done much of that yet. We're still pretty early. But okay. So any questions on that?
I'm already I'm new here. That's my first call. If you can maybe explain a little bit more what is the over and under columns? What do this mean?
Okay, okay. You don't understand sports. It's very easy. When we do sports, there are always two teams, right? Team A and Team B. The over and under is the sum of the total points made by Team A plus the total points made by Team B. So what we predict when you do your prediction is over and under. And when I take your transcript and match it to um, what what the picture um, of those 24 were set up. Um, let me see if I can say that better. That leads to something which I don't think I did that well. This fuzzy boundary set was done by about 30 people who looked at all of the pairs. There are about 300 pairs of ARV pictures that Ed May chose, as different as they can be. He then had 30 people go in and mark this fuzzy set. So they would mark what they thought this was. Hey, if there were mountains there, hey, they mark mountains. If there was a type of water there, they would put the type of water. And then, okay, so you saw that. And then what I do is I make a prediction based on matching with that, with those same figure of merits. And so I then am the one who has given the figure of merits to the two targets. Okay, so over and under are what the wager essentially is. And you understand that, right? The total number of points that each side, each team gets.
Yeah, I'm not really into sports whatsoever, so that's something new for me. But I get the overall idea. I understand the part that you're doing, just the sports part. I probably need to read up on my own.
It's football, if it's baseball, this one was basketball. You're going to be doing baseball. It doesn't matter. And the fact that you don't know anything or care anything about sports will probably help you. In other words, it just doesn't matter. You're doing ARV, period. Okay. So, um, and you're learning about your consciousness when you get your feedback. Any other questions? Because your tasking is describe and sketch my feedback picture. Simple as that. And so that's what you're learning how to do. Okay, the EGAR prediction isn't done, and you're not going to do this today because our game won't be over until this evening. But this positive feedback is very important. After the game, you will get your feedback. Circle or mark matches on your transcript, and hey, enjoy that. I mean, here, you got some matches. That's terrific. And then I recommend a new sheet of paper. You don't want to look at any of the bad stuff on the other transcript. So on a new sheet of paper, do the RV session you wish you had done. Now you put in maybe more Gestalt words. You put in other things what you feel like, oh, gee, I really missed that. How could I have missed water? And there is water. And as you're doing this, you might, if it's a lake, you might dive into the water. You can do that. You might feel, the feel of a waterfall, and that's sort of fun. So, and you do that, and then you're sending the information back to your remote viewing transcript. And then sketches are important. I get information from your sketches. Consciously enjoy the positive emotions and feelings and add and feel love and joy always, always helps. So now let's get into the stats. Once a month, in fact, on these first of the month meetings, I'm going to update them, and we'll see how well I do with my 65% dream, impossible dream. From your perspective, you keep just learning about your ARV. So here, there were 179 through the end of June, 179 personal predictions, 179 hits, 124 misses, and 303 trials, personal trials. Hit rate of almost 60%. In terms of what I did with the group, there are 83 hits, 53 groups, and a 61%. It's always been slightly higher than that. And I had 136 trials. Now, here's the form I've been using online, which does all the calculations for me. I've now also started doing them in Excel. And notice this, and some of you probably saw where I was getting 65%. And that is my long-term objective, 65%. I'm down to 61%. Notice that still has a standard deviation of 5.8. It's got a cumulative probability of this being greater, of getting more hits, 83, of being 0.006. And that leads to odds against chance of 157. Now, that was at 2040 earlier. Okay. So this is me now here. I have to talk with myself, and I've done this about trust. What's going on here? Here is the hit rate, session number up to the 100 and almost 40. Here is the hit rate itself between 50 and 100%, where 50 would be normal. And you can see when I did the impossible dream of 55%, I think you'd agree that's not a bad. And this intellectually, I tell myself, it's still not bad. But, you know, the cumulative hit rate now is 61%. I am going through and have had these emotions. You look at this and draw a downtrend line, and who knows, I can go right down to 50%. I don't believe that because I am a firm believer that in psi, I know my viewers believe in psi, and they're going to try to improve their hit rates, which then improve the group hit rate. And so I'm dealing with it. But I can just tell you there were trust issues Um, and it wasn't even clear. And that was what was so good about this, because the emotions came first, and I wasn't sure what the trust was that I didn't trust. But it came down to like the system. Does Ed May's system really work? Can you somehow use it for too long? I had a lot of good reasons why it might not work, which I don't like having that in my mind. So this is what we're involved here is cutting edge. Consciousness is fundamental. That's the main theme I use all the time. And eGarv is the best way I frankly know of raising all the appropriate issues, which include emotions, include trust. So I'm sharing with you what happened to me. Stuff like that will probably happen to you. And I'm believing as I move through it, um, I believe this will go back up to 65%. And you see, that's the impossible dream. And this is clearly a joint process. It's the viewers and me. I have to do the judging, and the judging has some challenges, but it involves both of us. And I experienced this idea that fear and emotion is real. All negative emotions have fear at their root. And the core of many negative emotions, um, maybe all negative emotions, whether it be anxiety, anger, jealousy, even sadness. Often these feelings stem from a feeling of loss, failure, rejection, or uncertainty. Okay, so let's make a prediction. But let's first get in a positive mood. I shared with you the emotions because clearly that was on a downtrend. I had been on a downtrend before and came back up in terms of the group. All of you have seen that in your own ARV. You do well sometimes and you don't do well, but generally you're at like 60%. There was one person who was at 80%. Um, so, you know, this is fun and learning about consciousness. Please bring that into your consciousness now. Bring some fun into your consciousness now. Okay. Told you about positive feedback. I'll remind you of it because the eGarv, we're going to end this with you sending me your sessions, and that's it. There won't be any more until later in the evening when I send you stuff back. But at that time, you do your positive feedback. You circle your matches on your transcript. On a new sheet of paper, you do the RV session you wish you had done. A new simple sketch, perhaps, if you miss something. Sounds, touches, smells, tastes, feelings, new words or phrases. And always enjoying this process. Flow in the river, in the stream, go with the waterfall. Your consciousness is always safe. It'll keep you safe, and you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so here's what eGarv is all about. And it's pretty much what remote viewing is all about. Very simple. You do your RV session, write your intention and group on your transcript near the top. So your intention is describe and or sketch my feedback target. Some people do it simpler. Describe and sketch my feedback target. Describe and sketch my feedback target. But be really clear. That's what your objective is, as simple as that. Describe and sketch my feedback target. And then do your positive feedback. The PFB is very important. Plus, you learn. You learn about things you missed, which you hopefully will get next time. The signals will be there because you know you're going to be sending them back. Retrocausality. Outcome is known after. And I will send that to you this evening. Infinity is in you. Taoists and others basically have said that for millennia. You are the master, keeper, creator of your reality. You're creating this transcript. Let's get right to it now. For those of you who have not done any of our taskings before, you start with a sheet like this that you get in your email. And it's very simple. It lists the group. We're doing this in the Alpha group. It enlists what the sports event is, but that doesn't matter. And it in this case, it's a major league game with the Brewers and the Mets, but it just doesn't matter what is. What matters is describe and sketch your feedback target. Right here is what matters. So what I'm going to do now, and then from there you go and you get your coordinate. So remote viewing begins with that coordinate and your intention. And what I am going to do is click on this just like you would click on your version of that. And I know some of you, at least one of you, okay, so that's the hot link. Please click it, Silky. I want to make sure that every one of you has it so you can go on and do your remote viewing session for your feedback target. You all got it? I guess I'll assume the answer is yes, because if you didn't, we can try to figure out why. Okay, that's great.
I got it.
Okay. Okay, the rest of you got it too? I'm going to assume so. Maybe you don't want to chat or put your voice on, but I'm going to assume you all have it. And when you click that link, you get something like this. This is very simple. You put in your email address, okay, and put it in twice. One of the big problems sometimes people have is if they don't put it in twice. And then you start you've got your coordinate. You can start your email session. And I know some of you may very well want to start now. I could turn off my voice and do what you want because this is the end of the training. This is the end of the EGAR. I'm assuming you will simply describe and sketch your feedback target, whatever comes to you. And then I will put the link in the chat box, which I've done. For those of you who are still listening, the guidance here is listen to your deeper, higher self via your subconscious. Drop thinking, drop the ego. You get into a meditative type of state. You write the coordinate here, you put your name and date and time and the group here, and AOLs count. Remember, we want those gestalts. We want those AOLs. Some things are named. Um, so cool down, Joe McMonagle says, is very important. And indeed it is, to get quiet, to get into the state where you feel you're locked in. Um, but after enough time, if you don't feel the lock in, you sort of go ahead anyway and guess. And then there's a silent prayer that Tom McNair does. He prayers to an all-knowing entity. Each of you will come up with your own way of doing this. And we're going to give you here 7 minutes of Spindrift for quiet completion of your transcript. Spindrift is something from the Monroe Institute. It's I think just excellent for getting down deep and meditating. Take as much time as you want, but no more than 2 pages. If you do more than two, give me a summary with two, and uh, and then that's it. And then there will be no more. I will leave you here after we do the EGAR judging your transcripts. We will send the personal and group predictions to you after I do the judging. Okay, so you will see the predictions, and on there it'll say over and under, but um, that isn't the important thing. And you will see the way everybody else went as well. Okay, any questions? You feel comfortable in going? Are you comfortable? Okay, some of you who I know are comfortable, go ahead. I'm getting the feeling that Silky might not be comfortable, but you can turn off your voice and just go, because the next thing you're going to hear from me is the return. Silky, are you comfortable with this? Have you done remote viewing before? Why don't you, your mic is off.
Okay. I've done remote viewing before, yes.
Okay.
So I'm okay.
Okay. There you go. Then simply do a session, submit it to me. Remember, this is really training for the newbies. The OBs come because they like to work consciousness. They'd like to get in. This goes on their record. It goes on my record. Um, so that's it. Go ahead and do it. And I will put the music on now.